Hello, everyone. Good evening, and welcome back to another edition of Kopi Chats with me, your host, Wei Lin. For me, it's actually late in the evening now, so there will be no kopi, just a little water before I go to bed soon. But I wanted to talk to you about just one topic this evening that I found really interesting. There was this plantations minister in Malaysia who recently came under fire because he went on a work trip to Turkey, came back, didn't quarantine, went to work, got caught, and then had to issue a public apology all about it. And now people can't stop making fun of him. Oh, that's this guy, uh, Dr. Muhammad Khairuddin Aman Razali. And now he's in the news again because he's been quoted as saying he wants a gambling ban and control of liquor sale. And this is a this is a hilarious thing uh if you grew up in Malaysia, if you're Malaysian like myself. Because growing up in Malaysia, every so often you'll read in the news that, some leader from the Islamic Party wants to, tighten controls on gambling and alcohol yet again. It's like a recurring thing. It's like the cycles of the moon almost. It's like a eclipse, right? It happens every once in a while. Except that this time, I decided to look into it. Now, 2020 has been a really bizarre year, and it's not even over yet. But I think we have learned that so many things that we used to accept as true are dubious. So it is with that spirit that I decided to look into this just a little bit more. So it turns out that the interview in which Dato Razali said these things, was alleged to have said these things, was in an interview for uh, youth youth group TV Pertiwi. TV Pertiwi calls themselves the heartbeat of the faithful. So they're Islamic youth group. They have a pretty nice, roster of content. They do pretty good stuff in my opinion, and it's clearly a very young team. So I had I had a little bit of expectations. I'm wondering like, okay, they look pretty credible and legitimate, and thus I'm not surprised that Dr. Razali decided to speak with them, and so I watched the whole interview so that I can give you the highlights, the takeaways. All right, so let me show you what I found really good. Now, Dr. Razali is a very conciliatory individual. Let me show you what I mean.
Suara rakyat Malaysia, insya-Allah. Yang penting adalah muafakat kita. Itu bagi saya kerja yang sangat besar, menggabungkan pembangkang dulunya sebagai kerajaan dan duduk bersama di satu pentas, dan tentulah berlaku pelbagai pandangan yang berbeza. Itu perkara biasa dalam politik, tetapi yang penting macam mana kita mencari titik pertemuan hingga kita selesaikan pelbagai permasalahan dan juga pertikaian.
So right there, Dr. Razali was talking about, we want to work with the opposition. It is very normal in politics to have a difference of opinion, but it's important for us to find the points of agreement. That is, like the starting points for a basis for working together. You have to find commonalities. It's entirely sensible. Entirely sensible. And furthermore, okay, let me show you.
Decision. Maknanya keputusan secara bersama, bukan hanya satu pihak saja. Selagi mana kita mengambil sikap bersama itulah, kebersamaan itulah, maka saya yakin agenda Islam, agenda Melayu akan dapat diterapkan dalam kerajaan.
So, Dr. Razali talks about collective decision making. He's saying that we don't believe in unilaterally imposing our views on other people, and that is their style of governance, and thus in that way Islamic principles will be applied, will be realized in the administration of government, which I find entirely reasonable. And you may question, okay, it's very entirely reasonable to say, okay, I hear you, Waylin. I think Dr. Razali has shown that he's willing to work together with people, and through that he can realize his Islamic values. But I'm worried about, these values that he speaks of. Are they values that I agree with? Are they things that we have in common? Because he talks about finding, commonalities, points of agreement. Will we be able to find that? So, let me show you my next highlight. I'm sorry if you don't understand Malay. So I'll show you, the clip so you can see his expression and see, how he carries himself. But thereafter, I still try to do the translation on the fly and tell you the gist of what he's saying.
Islam dan Islam menekankan integriti, menekankan
Integrity,
ketulusan, ketulusan,
continuity,
menekankan
sincerity.
tentang efisiensi, tentang apa namanya kelancaran kerja, tentang itqan yang menggambarkan kesungguhan kerja. Ini semua
Yeah, smooth operation in the carrying out the government administration. So these are all values that everybody can agree with, regardless of your faith. Integrity, continuity, sincerity, efficiency, smooth operation of the government business. Nobody would disagree with that. Nobody. I can't think of any person who would disagree with that. So if these are the values that he, says to a friendly Islamic audience, he doesn't come out the first thing with, all the theology, all the things that matter about the difference between heaven and hell. No, it's all very focused on living in the here and now, on the business of governing, right? So this all is extremely reasonable to me. Okay. So my next highlight is directly about where he's asked about gambling. I believe it's around here.
oleh syariat Islam, syariat Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala. Cuma bagaimana cara penjualannya itu mesti kita bincang. Kalau dijual secara berluas
Oh, sorry, that's not the one.
dengan Arab, sebahagian agama membenarkan. Maka kita akan berikan hak kepada mereka. Adapun judi tak ada agama membenarkan dan tak ada akal orang membenarkan judi ini. Ini adalah suatu benda penipuan kepada ataupun kita kata satu manipulasi terhadap kelemahan manusia dalam menguruskan duit hingga akhirnya jadi hilang kerana sebab judi.
Jadi adakah
So he's Dr. Razali speaks about Dr. Razali. I think he's also doctor. Yeah, might be the book kind of doctor. So Dr. Razali speaks about gambling as a weakness of human beings. It is a kind of manipulation, a kind of deceit, and that's entirely true. I don't know what I can say. Doesn't matter what religion you're from. There is not a single religion that says that gambling's great. No, because if there was, the believers of that religion would surely be the most poverty-stricken people in the world that there's ever been in history. So nobody says that gambling is a good thing, and it is correct, entirely correct what he's saying. It is a kind of trickery, of manipulation, and exploitation of human weakness. If you haven't heard this before, I want to tell you this. Gambling is a tax on people who can't do math, and the reason why that's true is because the odds of winning are just too small. This other saying that the house always wins. In a casino, the house always wins. That's because it's math. In the long run, just by pure probability, which is like an inviolable law of nature, the house will win. You and we, those of us who go to the casino, who gamble, will just lose money. So it is simply true. Now, not to say that it should be banned entirely, because there are many things that people do that is harmful to themselves, but they still do. People smoke, people get extremely drunk, people drive when they're not supposed to drive. So people indulge in all kinds of behaviors that are harmful to themselves. But what Dr. Razali is saying, that is true. Gambling is a kind of manipulation, the kind of deceit. It is exploitation of human weakness, right? But let me temper that. Let me qualify that with what he had said already in this same interview, that well, in order to govern, we would do it with collective decision making. We would try to find points of agreement with our partners and even with the opposition, which is one of the very first highlight that I mentioned. So it's unquestionably true that he feels this way about gambling, but it does not follow that that's the number one thing he wants to do is ban gambling. No, that's not true.
PAS akan mendesak supaya diharamkan penjualan secara
arak. Arak itu pertama kita berikan hak kepada mereka yang bukan untuk minum. Itu hak mereka yang dibenarkan oleh syariat Islam, syariat Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala. Cuma bagaimana cara penjualannya itu mesti kita bincang. Kalau dijual secara berluasa, terbuka hingga menyebabkan orang Islam boleh beli dan boleh kemudian minum secara terbuka hingga menyebabkan drive kereta dalam keadaan mabuk sebagainya, itu memudaratkan rakyat.
So on the topic of alcohol, he said alcohol is a right for the non-Muslim population. It is a God-given right, and it's only the availability of the alcohol that we have to discuss. He said. So if it is, he says, if it is widely and openly sold, such that Muslims can purchase and consume it freely, leading to accidents, leading to drunkenness, well, that would harm people, and we wouldn't want that. And again, no reasonable person would disagree with that. No reasonable person would disagree with that. You do not, so I have friends who live in Sweden, and even in Sweden, Western European democratic country with personal liberty for all, you have to buy your alcohol from the licensed liquor shops, which, as I understand, are government monopolies. And I think that's also the case in Canada. So it is not the case, that in these countries you can buy alcohol from anywhere and anyone, anytime. No, it's just not the case. Like I believe in Stockholm and Sweden, shops close pretty early, and alcohol shops are no exception. So you have to buy it, at the proper time frame, from the licensed shops, not just anywhere. So there's nothing that I heard from Dato' Razali that I would consider objectionable. No. In fact, I want to play my next highlight for you to prove that.
Malaysia pada ketika itu Malaysia yang aman dan damai, Malaysia yang maju dan sejahtera, Malaysia yang adil untuk semua, Malaysia yang berkebajikan untuk semua orang, yang semua rakyat pada ketika itu punya pendapatan yang cukup makan, bahkan lebih daripada makan, dan semua orang mendapat hak dia. Itu adalah negara yang kita mahu.
So he says a Malaysia that is peaceful, is developed, has justice for all, has development, such that everybody has sufficient income. That is the vision of Malaysia that he wants to see. And to me, that just sounds that there's nothing objectionable about that at all. Again, I think that's a wonderfully inclusive vision of Malaysia. And if you're cynical, like very critical person, and I expect that you are because you're watching my video, you would ask, well, of course, these are all things that we want, but I don't want to live under a theocracy, of a government and administration that is, entirely Muslim, because that makes me just really uncomfortable, right? And even on that, I found a highlight.
Jaya mendapat mandat daripada rakyat Malaysia. Itu keyakinan kita lah.
Jadi tak timbul isu sepatutnya Melayu sahaja yang memegang pokok kerajaan.
Ya, dalam konteks negara kita ada Melayu sebagai dominasinya, dan kita ada bukan Melayu. Itu realiti yang kita kena terima. Dan Islam mengajar kita adil dan sama dalam apa saja urusan kehidupan. Berarti tak mungkin hanya orang Islam yang mentadbir. Mesti ada bukan Islam yang bersama kita.
So Dr. Razali says right there, in Malaysia you have the majority ethnicity of Malay people, and then you have minorities. That's just the reality of the world. And in Islam, teaching goes that there must be justice, fairness and justice for all. So it says impossible. He says impossible, tak mungkin, that you have only Muslims in the administration. You have to have non-Muslims in the administration as well. And to me, once again, that sounds exactly right. I have no argument, no disagreement with that whatsoever. Now, if you feel that having I've highlighted all these points, you listen and you still feel Wayne, I hear you, but I still don't feel comfortable. Don't worry at all. That's totally your right. Like, you can come away from this video believing what you believe, because that's it's your right. You can hold that. But I hope at least that you have this to consider, to weigh in your mind, where you didn't have it before, where in the past you had a bias, a preconceived idea about past and past's members and leaders that was not softened or tempered by actually having heard them speak and having listed read their points. So with this, I hope that at least has changed. What is said. You can choose not to believe it, you can choose not to accept it, but that this is a thing. We don't have to hold on to a fictional, an imaginary past anymore. We have the real thing that we can look at, we can evaluate, we can talk about. And I think that's really important. And perhaps more importantly, we realize that the idea that was sold to us, that past, they're like fundamentalists, they can't work with them. Maybe that's not true. Maybe we have to question the people who told us such a thing. Maybe the world, in 2020 really isn't the same one that we grew up with. And that is something really worth considering. And so, with these challenging thoughts, I like to give it to you and let you chew on it for a bit and really mull over it, think over it, maybe talk to people about it. And as usual, I really hope that you enjoyed this video, that you can we'll come back for more in the future, and I'll talk to you again real soon. Bye bye and take care.